In this video, we're going to look at 5 problems that Amazon really need to resolve before New World is released or shortly thereafter. Now, this is probably going to be a little bit easier now that they have delayed the game until the 28th of September. I'm not going to be talking about game balance, but I am aware of certain things feeling like it's a little bit broken, like healing seem to be probably needing a nerf, but I'm going to try and put away game balance and hope that Amazon will resolve that in time. The first one we're going to look at is faction balance. From what I can tell, there is really nothing to stop one faction dominating and one faction generally being left out. And in most cases, it seems that the Marauders are the most popular and the Covenant is the least popular. But that's not true with every server. I'd say that was just the average of what I saw online. Now, maybe Amazon thought that there wouldn't be that much difference between the populations of the factions, because quite frankly, there's not that much difference between the factions. I do think that the perks are slightly different on the items that you can buy, which when I made a faction video, I was wrong about because I didn't realize that at the time. I do think, though, this is really an issue that needs addressing and addressing relatively quickly. But I do appreciate that it's actually going to be quite difficult because you need to reward the bigger faction who owns the most territories, because that's the purpose of the game. So how do you reward the second and third factions for not being the most popular? But then why would anybody join the least popular if you can just be having the most fun and the most benefits from the biggest faction? So I appreciate that it's difficult, and the only current balancing mechanism that I know about is not being able to swap to the most dominant faction. But quite frankly, I think that's going to leave out the third faction, as everybody from the least popular faction is going to join the second most popular faction, and you're going to have a 2-horse race at best. The only thing I can think of is giving big rewards to people killing the dominant faction members, but I'm not a game designer and I don't really know if that'd work. Now, the next one is sort of 3 sections in one, but I'm just going to call it all one because it sort of all relates to the same kind of thing. And we're going to talk about servers. Now, obviously, Amazon did release a statement saying, actually, we're pretty happy the way the servers ended up at the end of beta. Things have been going relatively well. We implemented a few different upgrades and we think that's sorted. But it's imperative that the game at launch generally has not insane queues and not much lag. We really don't need the downtime. That's just going to hurt the game. If Amazon are confident, fine. If it's a problem at launch, then people will be asking questions now. And along the same lines, which is sort of server related, I want more regional servers. For example, the EU server was called EU Central, and I'm obviously in the UK, and I don't want to be like, oh, there's not one close to me, but the ping I was getting was 90 to 100 maybe, and I have pretty decent internet, so I would maybe like more regional servers. I know Oceania, Australasia, whatever you want to call it, generally gets screwed over in these kind of situations. So does, I think, South America. More regional servers would definitely be handy, and I would like to see a split in EU from EU West and EU East, for example. And maybe even have specific languages per servers, just to make it easier so that, if you're Italian, you only speak Italian maybe, then you want to go into a server where predominantly people are going to be speaking Italian. To me, it just sort of would make sense. And along the same kind of lines, but not server related, is just general overall performance. Now, I am aware the RTX 3090 is apparently, burning up and being ruined. Now, I'm not sure if that was the game or if that was the graphics card manufacturer. It seems to me that the graphics card manufacturers are replacing them, which sort of indicates that it's that rather than Amazon. But again, I don't really want to speculate there. I don't really know. In Amazon's statement, though, they do talk about how they will be working on bugs, exploits, and that kind of thing. So overall performance, I expect to improve as quickly as they can in 2 months, which probably isn't very much, but if they can get rid of as many bugs as possible, that would be great. I personally was doing a duel with some guy, and I was having issues swapping my weapons at times and experiencing a few bugs, but a lot of people didn't experience any bugs, and some people experienced a lot. So that's 3 things I just mentioned in quick succession. One of them is basically server performance. The other one is basically more regional servers. I obviously just want a split in EU, and then we have just general game performance. 2 of which Amazon do sort of say they are addressing, so let's hope that's the case. And the next thing we're going to look at is PvP scaling. Now, in principle, I'm sort of actually in agreement with PvP scaling. You don't really want to have a level 60 just trolling around the lobby areas, killing people who are flagged when they're level 15, very easily one-shotting them. You might want to do that if you are the high level player, but the low level player is not going to be happy about it. So I completely understand the concept behind PvP scaling, and I'm in general agreement. Now, some people say it takes away some of the RPG elements, but meh, get over it. You're just not going to be able to kill newbies. It's not the end of the world. But the reason it's in this list is I don't think it should be noticeable or broken. Now, I'm not saying it is, but a lot of discussion was or had online about it, and you want it to be relatively reasonably balanced. My main hope is that it basically isn't breakable. Now, those of you might be familiar with Rex Torrey, not sure how you say his name, but he plays World of Warcraft. They had PvP scaling in the open world, and quite frankly, he abused that in many like funny, comical ways, and I just hope that New World doesn't fall into the same kind of trap. Basically, this is something that should exist, but shouldn't really be that noticeable. Now, I don't really know how you achieve that. Again, I'm not a game designer. The next thing is swimming. I don't know why swimming's not in the game. It's weird because you're swimming onto an island at first, so you probably already can swim. I suspect the lack of swimming is because they don't want you to just swim around the island and get into areas that you shouldn't be able to get into. But it's just weird walking on the bottom of the water like you're some sort of like Terminator. I mean, it just needs to be, you just need to be able to swim. Even though you probably couldn't realistically swim with all your heavy armor on it, it's just a game concept that you can generally swim in games. Please add this, Amazon. I'm not expecting this to maybe be in at launch because it would maybe require like swimming animations, but I mean, soon, please. And the next thing is just a very simple, you should be able to choose your starting area. And this is very simple. If you have friends, which I obviously don't, but if you want to join Discord, we might all be playing together, then there'll be a link in the description. But yeah, basically you should be able to choose your starting area so that you can play with your friends and team up very quickly. Otherwise, what you've got to do is like finish the first quest, then not accept the second quest, and then run to the zone. That's very awkward. Or you just level up to like level 10 and then swap zones. Now, there might be a problem that if you actually just let people pick the starting zone, everybody would pick like the same one. However, I think the way to get around that is to make it so you can pick your starting zone, but you just don't make it very obvious. So by default, it's random, but if you pick one, then you pick one. It just seems weird that an MMO wouldn't let you play with your friends from like the off. I know that Amazon aren't really going to be adding new content really so much in the time that they have delayed the game. It is all about fixing stuff and making sure there's no exploits, that kind of stuff. So when I was talking about server performance, game performance and that kind of stuff, we can expect generally that Amazon will be working on that in the main. However, I would like to see more game concepts maybe explained a little bit. There's nothing to me that seems to be stopping like faction imbalance, and that I think is going to be a contentious issue going forward unless they do something more than just not let you swap to the most popular faction. That's it. Let me know if you think they should be adding or changing anything that's actually possible in the time frame. Other than that, have a most beautiful day. Like and subscribe. Goodbye.